Hi, and welcome to this webinar, Creating Work That is the Truest Expression of Who You Are. My name is Kylie, and I'm the creator of the Vision Program, a program that helps you discover, create, and live your inspired work. Now, I'm going to say right off the top, this webinar today is not a training. What this is a clarion call to those of you who feel inspired to live into a new paradigm of work, a new paradigm of meaning and purpose and possibility. If you're feeling that call, but you're not yet sure how to answer it, this is what I'm going to speak to today. I'm going to start off by talking about our changing world. Up until now, we have been doing work based in an old paradigm of separation and lack and limitation. And this is not anyone's fault. This is just what the consciousness of the time was. But this is what's changing. This is the transformation we're going through. We're now emerging into this new paradigm of possibility and potential and creation. And this era is being dubbed as the Great Resignation. I see this as a symbol of each of us claiming our sovereignty. We're not willing anymore to exchange our lives for money. We're not willing anymore to do work that is not fully aligned with who we are. And not only are our needs evolving, humanity's needs are evolving. Everything on every level on this planet needs to evolve, whether that is the way we grow and distribute food, whether that is the way we educate ourselves, that could be transportation, accessing and using the energy on this planet, the way we use our natural resources. I mean, you name it, it's evolving, it's changing. And also, our consciousness is expanding. We are becoming more aware of ourselves and our interrelationship with each other and the way we live in the world. So I see it as we are at this inception of this new paradigm. And what we want now for our work is changing. And we're entering this time of unlimited potential and possibility. I believe, and I'm not the only one, a lot of people are saying this, that we're moving into what is going to be the most creative and innovative time on our planet. Not only do we need to create new kinds of work, we need to create a new earth, essentially. So this is about those of you, if you're feeling this call, I believe you are here to bring forth your inspired work, because I believe it is for each of us to bring who we are into this world through our work. And this is what is going to move humanity forward. So this is part of what I think brought us here today. You are feeling the call to be an active participant in this new evolution of our work. Now, the journey, this is not about finding a job. You may be someone who has been forevermore looking for the right job. The reason why you haven't found it is because what this is really about is remembering who you are and creating work that allows you to be all of who you are. Now, how you know you're feeling this call is you may feel this fire in your being for something to change. And especially in your work, you may feel a desire to feel fully expressed in your work and to do work that is meaningful to you, and for your work to actually be fulfilling. Go figure. And for your heart's true desires to be realized. You also may have this inkling, this knowing within you that you have more to give. You have strengths, gifts, and talents that are not being fully utilized, and you want to utilize them, and you want to make your valuable contribution. Now, here's the thing. How many of you can clearly articulate what these things are? What is your expression? What would make your work feel meaningful to you? What are your heart's true desires? What are your strengths, gifts, and talents? And what is your contribution? Now, this is probably why you're feeling frustrated, is you want to do these things, but you don't yet know what they look like in your life. But when you do, this is what's going to happen, is you are going to feel lit up and on fire in a good way. But where you're at is you might have been having the experience of work that it's not lighting you up. And here's the thing. In the 12 years I've been doing this work, I've only ever seen one reason why people don't enjoy what they're doing. And this is what it is that your work doesn't allow you to be all of who you are. If you've ever had to compromise yourself or minimize yourself or make yourself smaller to do the work you're doing, of course you're not going to be happy doing that. It might also be that your work feels meaningless to you. It lacks purpose. You don't understand why what you're doing is part of something bigger or how it's part of something bigger. And you might also be feeling just plain old uninspired. Your work is disconnected from your heart and your soul. How many of you are showing up wholehearted and all in your work? You might also feel misaligned with your work. I like to think of it as I'm wearing, or you're wearing the wrong clothes. And I said I'm because I had that experience, and I'm going to tell my story in a little bit. I had this feeling like I was wearing the wrong clothes. And what I mean by that is I had the sense that my work was not making the best use of who I was, my strengths, my gifts, my talents. It was something not quite right. You also might feel constricted by your work, and that's the nice word. A lot of people, the word a lot of people use is they feel trapped. They feel trapped in their jobs. Now, here's the thing. It's not the job's fault. A job by definition has a description, meaning it's defined, it's restricted, it's a box. And a lot of us put ourselves into a box to do a job. And for a time, that might actually really serve us well. It might be a comfortable home that we feel good in and we get to play in. But here's the thing, we are evolutionary beings. Jobs don't evolve. And so eventually what happens is as we evolve, we bump up against the limitations of the job. And then we think there's something wrong with the job. There's not anything wrong with the job. It's just that we've outgrown it. It's time for you to move on to do something more. But here's the thing. You might be feeling a little lost because you know there's more for you to be doing in this world. There's more for you to be doing in your work, but you're frustrated because you don't know what the more is and you don't know how to figure it out. And that might be making you cycle through a range of emotions, including frustration, wanting to know, wanting to move forward, and feeling stuck and unable to move forward. You might be feeling confused. You might actually have some ideas of where you want to go, but none of them seem to be the right idea, or you question if they're the right idea. You might also be feeling numb. Sometimes the pain of not being able to step into what we really want to be doing is painful. And instead of actually really experiencing that pain, we sort of numb ourselves to the point sometimes where we actually break our own spirits. And I can hardly say that without bursting into tears because that's my story. And I was at one time, perhaps where you are now, and I was really frustrated. I wanted to be doing something more, but I didn't know how to get to that clarity. But here's what I've learned. The reason why I didn't know how to get to that clarity was because all throughout my schooling and even my careers, I had been conditioned away from who I am. I had been conditioned away from being who I am. And this is what I call the old school ways. When we go through formal education, a lot of times we are taught that work is outside of ourselves. It is something we go seek. It is something we go find. And we're not taught that work is an expression of ourselves. And essentially, from almost day one, there's this force into education. And the underlying message is that you are not enough. You came into this world not enough, and that your value in this world is based on what you know and the skills you learn in school. I'm just going to pause there. This is the conditioning we're given. You're not enough. You don't know enough. You don't have anything of value to offer. You better learn this so that you have something valuable to offer the world. And we're also taught that trainings and designations like school and programs are what make us employable in the world. Now, I'm all for education. Obviously, I operate a school, and I'm all for formal traditional education, but here's when: not when we're in a place of not being clear about who we are. So we're randomly picking trainings that we think, well, maybe this is it, and maybe this is it. What I like to use education for is when people are crystal clear about where it is they're trying to go, and they need a certain amount of training or skill sets to help get them there. And then they can consciously choose some form of education that serves. So this, as I said, has been part of my story. What inspired my journey to my own clarity was that at one time, and I can hardly even talk about it, even though it's many moons ago now, but I felt dead inside. I was just going through the motions of life. I was especially just going through the motions in work. And I came to realize I was living what I call a lie. And I'm going to elaborate on that in just a little bit. But in my work, it was showing up as I felt as though I was a fraud or I had imposter syndrome. And it goes back to what I said earlier, this idea that I was wearing the wrong clothes. I was in the wrong place. And here's how I knew, actually. I looked around at my work colleagues, and they were excited by their work. They wanted to talk about it. They wanted to go out for drinks after work and talk more about work. They wanted to do trainings on the weekends. They wanted to read about it. And for me, nope. I just wanted my workday to end and to get on with the rest of my life. And so it gave me a hint that what I was doing was not fully aligned with who I was. But here's the thing, back to the lie that I was living. What I call the lie are not enough stories. Because of our conditioning, because we are taught we're not enough, we end up thinking we don't have anything of value to offer the world. So for most of my early career, I kept choosing fields of work that were basically not really aligned with who I was, because I didn't know that I had something valuable to offer. All I knew at that time was that there was something more to the work than what I was doing, but I didn't know what it was either, and I didn't know how to figure it out. But here's the thing I think made the biggest difference in my life, and it's the simplest thing in the world. It's that I wanted to know. I wanted to figure it out. I wanted to know what this more was that I felt like I was missing in my life. And that desire within me sent me on a very profound journey. Now, at first, I blamed the field I was in. I thought, oh, it's just the field I'm working in. It's not the right field for me. So I'm going to go back to school and train in another field. And this led me on an endless pursuit of trainings and education. I have 3 post-secondary degrees and diplomas, and I would have gone on to more until I actually realized what I was missing. When I finally stopped looking out into the world for the answer to see, where do I belong in the world? And I started asking myself, well, who am I? And how do I want to show up in the world? And what is it I have to offer? That was when I started to get to clarity. Now, at the time, I was in school, of course, in one of these endless trainings I was in. But what happened is, as I began to figure out who I was and what I was really great at, interestingly enough, I was invited to teach at the school. At first, they actually asked me to redevelop their entire business curriculum for the school. Because I had been self-employed for 10 years, I had experience in the field of business. And so they said, hey, I think you have something valuable to offer here. Why don't you rewrite our business curriculum? And so I did. And then they said, hey, seeing as you wrote the business curriculum, why don't you teach it? Now, at that time, it had never occurred to me to be a teacher. I always loved school. I actually, even though I'm talking about these old school ways, I've always loved formal education. It just seemed to work for me. And trust me, I get it. It does not work for everybody. It does not actually work for the majority of people. And it didn't work for me on these levels I'm talking about. However, I did enjoy school for what it was. So I began to teach at this school. And what ended up happening is, as I was teaching business, people started coming to me and saying, hey, can you help coach me to bring my business to life? And I thought, okay, I can do that, no problem. And as I started to coach people, new ideas started presenting themselves to me and new opportunities started showing up. And this is what was interesting. As I got clearer about who I was, different opportunities started to arise. Now, at one point, I was still finding my way. And I want to emphasize here that this journey I was on, this inner journey, was years long at this point, several years of really trying to understand myself and my work and what it was I had to bring to the table. Now, all during this time, I had a little side project just for fun, just for me, and I had a breakfast blog. And what that meant, what it looked like is, at the time, I lived in the city of Vancouver, and every weekend I would go out for breakfast somewhere new and blog about it. Now, I do, total side note, I think back now, this was before Instagram world. And I think about how, wow, if Instagram had actually been around when I was doing the breakfast blog, it would have been a whole different thing. Because even at that time, I had 4,000 page views a year on that blog. So I think it would have translated well on Instagram. We all love pictures of food, right? Anyways, I'm totally digressing here. What I'm getting at is that breakfast blog led me to a really important piece of my own puzzle. And it was this. So I had a breakfast buddy who I'd meet frequently for breakfast, and my friend was notoriously late. And that was fine. But what that meant was I always made sure I had a book when I was meeting her for brunch. And on this particular day, this was in August of 2009, I remember it vividly, I was reading a book by Ken Robinson called The Element: How Finding Your Passion Changes Everything. And so there I was waiting for my friend, reading this book, and I came across this passage, this sentence in the book. And when I read it, my heart started beating fast. And what it said was this: there are no schools for people to discover their gifts. And when I read that sentence, I knew right then and there that was exactly what I was going to do. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that this was like the apple falling on my head, like Newton discovering gravity. This was something that became clear after a long time of me doing the inner work of really understanding who I was and what I had to offer. And after I didn't come up with that idea. After that idea came to me, for a while, I thought, I'm not going to do this. Who am I to do that? Who am I to create a school to help people discover their gifts? And I'm going to try not to get emotional. And so I sort of put the idea aside, just said, oh, that's ridiculous. That's silly. I can't do that. But it just so happened 2 months later, there was a summit in Vancouver, a peace summit. And there was a talk being given at the summit by Ken Robinson, the author of this book. And it was called Educating the Heart, Creativity and Well-Being. And the panel was a pretty extraordinary panel. It included Ken Robinson, Eckhart Tolle, the Dalai Lama, the Blue Man Group, and several other people. And I went to that summit and I felt called to go there. And in that session, the Dalai Lama said that he believes that the education system is the key to developing a happier human society, but there's something lacking. And him saying that took me right back to that minute when I read that passage in Ken Robinson's book, There Are No Schools for People to Discover Their Gifts. And I walked out of that summit knowing that this was the next step on my journey. And the new school was born. And people around me thought I was nuts. They really did. They actually still do. Here I am 12 years later, and there's still a lot of people around me that, yeah, not quite sure what this is all about. But I knew, I was clear. I knew this was my path. And I talked before about I was living that lie. I felt dead inside. I was so disconnected from my heart and soul. My work was so disconnected from my heart and soul that I felt dead. And this idea sparked me back to life. And I created the New School for Inspired Work. I created the Vision Program. And since then, I've helped hundreds of people remember who they are and create work that is born from this inner place of alignment. The new school ways, I think, are a little bit different than the old school ways. In the new school, we talk about that work comes from within. It's not something you go find. It is something that comes through us. And we already are and already have everything we need to do our work. We're already set up to do this work. We don't need qualification to be who we are. This is one of the biggest barriers I see people face, is this belief system that you have to have those letters behind your name to be valuable in the world. It's one of the biggest lies that I like to help people let go of when we do this work together. You already have everything you need. You just need to allow it to come through you. Your work wants to be created through you. Your work is unique to you and your personal expression. I look at the work of this discovery work I do with people as work from the inside out. We look at work as this concept of, it is this expression of who we are within out in the world. Now, traditionally, finding a job is about applying what you know, right? You take this knowledge you've learned, these skills you've learned, and you apply it to be valuable to other people. Creating work is about being who you are. It actually is such a simple concept. I think it's hard sometimes for people to grasp. I think, well, I think about some of the people I work with, and they're like, really? This, I just get to be me, and this is my work. And yes, this is true. But if this is true, work is about being who we are, then we have to know who we are. This is the challenge. I said earlier, do you know what would make your work meaningful to you? Do you know what your heart's desires are? Do you know what your strengths, gifts, and talents are? Do you know what your unique contribution is that you want to make? This is what we have to get clear about. Our inspired work out in the world is when what we do out in the world is aligned with who we are within. Now, here's the thing. Your inspired work is such an expression of who you are. It does not yet exist. It can't. It's your role to create it. It's your role to bring it in. You might possibly find this idea exciting or terrifying. And if you're human, probably some of both. Now, it's exciting because of the limitless possibilities. There's no end to what you can create. There's no limit to what you can do. There's no box that you have to fit yourself within, but it is terrifying because it is unknown. You haven't yet lived it. It's not yet proven itself to you that it's possible. You have to trust in the unknown. And this is really hard for us humans to do this. What do you need to find your way? To find your way to clarity about your inspired work, you need to have some kind of process or structure to help you figure out the pieces of your puzzle. Now, this is why I kept referring to my journey as having taken years. The reason why it took me years to get to clarity is because I had no process to follow. I had no map. I like to call it a map, where I didn't know what the steps were. I didn't know what I needed to know. So if you had that, it would make this journey a lot simpler for you. You also might really benefit from having guidance from someone to help you see what you can't yet see. That's where I come in. This is one of the places I really shine, is that I'm really good at seeing people beyond their own stories, beyond their own limitations, beyond their own conditioning. And I'm really great at moving people out of that dark place and back into the light, where it can feel really vulnerable to be, because we're not used to it. We're not used to standing out in the light and showing the world who we are. And this is why, again, it's important to have support, and especially from a like-hearted community. To get to this place for yourself, you have to do what I call the inner work of work. And this deep uncovering of who we are. Back to mentioning Ken Robinson again, in one of his TED Talks, it's called Bring on the Learning Revolution. He talks about how human resources, meaning who we are and what we have to give, are like natural resources. They're often buried deep. You have to go looking for them. They're not just lying around on the surface. You have to create the circumstances where they show themselves. And you might imagine education would be the way that happens, but too often it's not. And so this is what I'm offering you at the New School. I'm offering you an opportunity to go through a program that helps you uncover your natural resources, your unique resources. And the program I created, it's based upon my own journey to clarity. It really is as simple as I looked back over my years-long journey and said, okay, what was the first step? Oh, okay, the first step was I had to look at my beliefs and see where I was limiting myself. Then my next step was I had to look at my concept of work and reframe my entire concept of work, and so on. And I created the program based on that journey. And it's a structured framework designed specifically to get to clarity about who you are. It uses this inside out approach I keep referring to. And then it connects you with the creator that you are and allows you to bring your work to life through your own creative process. More formally, this is what the journey looks like. There's 3 components to the program. There's vision 1, vision 2, vision 3. And I kind of always chuckle when I think about that, because people have been through the program. They love it so much. They're like, we don't want it to end. We want vision 4. We want vision 20. You know why? Because there's something so deeply satisfying in knowing about ourselves and knowing how amazing we are. This is about you remembering how amazing you are. That's what this whole entire journey is about. And you living back into that truth. I had that lie that I was not enough. I was not worthy. This journey is about remembering who you are and living back into that truth. And I have refined this program over 12 years of working with people. It's been through many iterations. It's been through many different refinements. Now, what it looks like is each of these modules are 6 sessions long, and it's progressive. It's a very progressive journey. Every session is themed, but it's created intentionally to help move you from not being clear to getting clear about your purpose and vision. Vision 1 is all about your purpose and vision, why you're here. See, most people, when they're asking themselves, for clarity around their work, they're asking the second question, what am I here to do? And the whole reason why it's really hard to get clear about the what is because you first need the why. And so once you have the why, then the what becomes a lot easier to come into being. And so vision 2 is about creating your inspired work. What am I here to do? What are my strengths, gifts, and talents? What is it I want to create? What am I dreaming up? And how do I go about creating it? And so that's vision 2. Vision 3 is about living it, putting it into action. We go back from this deep inner journey to starting to bring yourself out into the world, where you actually develop a pilot project for your unique offering and you start sharing it with people. So vision 3 is about the how. How am I going to show up in the world? The challenge in doing this work, the challenge in getting clear about who you really are, is you're going to have to reframe all your old conditioning about who you thought you were. A lot of the work that comes up in the vision program is around people meeting these old limited ideas of themselves. And we have to constantly look at them and remove them, and look at them and remove them. I always think of them as like layers of an onion that we're peeling back, peeling back, peeling back, peeling back until we get to the core essence of you. And so this is about transforming that lie of not enoughness into you living the truth of your inherent worthiness, the person you came into this lifetime as. This is not even about becoming something different. This is about remembering who you already are. And when you do that, you find the more you've been looking for. Work becomes an exciting, never-ending adventure. Life becomes an exciting, never-ending adventure. And you have more energy and more joy and more inspiration. And you are paid, you are financially rewarded for being exactly who you are. Can you imagine? Can you imagine in your work being financially rewarded for being exactly who you are? And you realize how much you truly matter. And you end up falling in love with yourself and with life itself. These are the rewards of doing this work. Now, I also want you to know that if you have this dream of having work that is fulfilling and meaningful to you, and you want to live your inspired life, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not crazy. It is real. To have this desire within you is real. And I know that there are hundreds of fellow visionaries who have had the same desire and are now living it. And I also want you to know that I've been there and I've been on this journey myself. And I am now here fully committed with my heart and soul to walking with you if you want to take this journey. And that's the invitation to you now. If your inspired work is a journey that you want to take, I'm inviting you to say yes to the vision program and enroll. And so for the $1,125 for a 5-month program. I don't know if I mentioned that before. The program is 21 sessions. It happens over a period of 5 months. You get you back. You get your life back. You get to live an exciting, fulfilling, inspiring life. You get to create work that is the truest expression of who you are. This is not a one-off thing. This is not you find some job and there you're done and happy. This is changing your work and your life for the rest of your life. This is, I was going to say meaningful. That's not even the right word. This transformation that happens impacts every single level of your life. Now, I want to address a few of your yeah buts. Not you necessarily, but these are things I hear from people. I went to a seminar many moons ago again, and I remember really clearly one of the speakers said this. He said, everything after but is bullshit. And he actually had bumper stickers made up. Everything after but is bullshit. And I think about that often. Whenever I use the word but, I stop and I pause and I think, is what I'm about to say true or not true? So you may be yeah-butting this. These are things I hear. People say to me, well, I don't know if I can take this program because I'm not clear about who I am. And first off, I need to say exactly that this is what I've been saying today, is that this is what the journey will help you discover. But the reason you've not been clear is because you've never been asked the right questions. How many people in school are asked questions about who they are? School is so busy teaching us what they know. They don't ever say, hey, tell us what makes you great. Tell us what you know. Tell us what you have to bring to the situation. Tell us what your great ideas are. That's what this journey is about. Clarity doesn't come from knowledge. It comes from inner resourcing who you are by being asked the right questions. And I'm sorry To anyone, this might offend if I say this, but a lot of people are really terrible at asking the right questions. I know when I struggle with things, my friends are not always great at asking me the questions that help me get to clarity. They're so interested in telling me what they think that they're not able to hold space for what I know. And this is what this is. This is a way to hold space for your own wisdom to come in. What else I hear from people is, well, I don't have anything to offer. How could I create work that's the truest expression of who I am? And again, I'm here to say, I know without a shadow of a doubt in my own mind, in my own being, yes, you have something to offer. 100% you do. Every single human being comes into this life with something valuable to offer. And this program is going to help you know exactly what that is. I also hear people say, ooh, 5 months. I don't know. That's a long commitment. And my response is, you bet it is. This is about the rest of your entire life. This isn't a short-term fix to a problem that has been years and decades in the making, right? There's been decades you've gone not living this way. In a few short months, you get to that clarity. You get to recreate your entire life and forevermore live from this new place. I'm going to start to close by sharing one more set of words from someone who's been through the program, Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca. Rebecca said, for the first time in my life, I feel as though I can be myself at work. The vision program helped me reframe my entire concept of what work even is. I now have a true understanding of my value in the world and how I will contribute through my work. I also know and like myself more. The program opened my eyes and my heart to parts of myself that I had rejected for a long time. This experience has been deeply transformative. Here's what I know for sure. You are here to be you, and it matters that you are here. It matters. Your vision, your gifts, your big ideas are so needed, especially right now. And not only is it about moving humanity forward, it's about you and the life you want to live. Your work is meant to be an expression of you, an embodiment of all of who you are, your wholehearted contribution in the living of your inspired life. This is why you are here, to live your truth. And your work can be a pathway to remembering and living back into your truth. So I'll close with those final words. Whether you choose to go on the journey of the vision program or not, I choose you to remember the most important thing, which is you. Remember who you are. And please let the world benefit from you bringing who you are into the world, whether it's through your work or some other pathway, it doesn't matter. What's important that you're here and that you celebrate who you are. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.